The steel doors closed with a heavy hiss, sealing the room like a tomb. Ethan Cole stood still, trying not to show his fear. The walls around him were smooth metal, shining cold under the white lights. He could hear his own breathing echo through the small chamber. A voice spoke through the intercom. Test Subject 47, you will remain inside for 6 hours. Do not engage unless necessary. Ethan looked up at the camera in the corner. Copy that, he said, though his throat was dry. This was not his first mission. He had served as a soldier on many worlds. But this was different. He wasn't facing enemies or weapons. He was facing her. They called her the Feral One, a female alien captured 2 months ago on the edge of the Delta Rim. Every team that tried to communicate with her had failed. Some never came back. Ethan was chosen because of his calm nature and high survival record. The scientists believed he could handle it. They told him she wasn't dangerous, unless provoked. He didn't believe that for a second. At first, the room was empty. Just a metal bench, a single dim light, and a reinforced observation window. But then the secondary door opened with a deep mechanical groan. From the shadows, she stepped out. The alien girl looked almost human, almost. Her skin had a faint violet glow. Her white hair fell to her shoulders, soft but wild, like she hadn't touched civilization in years. Her eyes were large and bright, too bright, glowing blue like twin stars. She didn't walk like a human. She moved low and light, like a predator testing the air. Ethan took a step back. "Hey there," he said carefully. "I'm not here to hurt you." No response. She tilted her head, studying him silently. Her ears, pointed and twitching, caught every sound. She crouched near the far corner, watching. The intercom crackled again. "Maintain position, Cole. Observe behavior. Do not attempt physical contact." "Yeah, got it," Ethan muttered. Minutes passed in silence. The alien didn't move much. Just watched him with unblinking curiosity. Every time Ethan shifted, her eyes followed. He tried again. "Do you understand me? Can you speak?" Still nothing. Then, out of nowhere, the lights flickered. Once. Twice. Then the room went dark. Ethan's heart pounded. Control. What's going on? No answer. Only static. When the emergency lights came back on, the alien girl was gone. Ethan spun around. The room was small, no place to hide, yet she had vanished. He felt the air move behind him. Slowly, he turned. She was standing just inches away. Her eyes were glowing brighter now, her breathing fast. She looked up at him, head tilted again, almost curious. Ethan raised his hands slowly. "It's okay. I won't hurt you." She didn't blink. Her gaze dropped to the scar on his arm, an old wound from the war. She reached out a clawed finger and traced it gently. Ethan froze. She was trembling. Not in anger, in fear. "It's okay," he said softly. "You're safe." Something strange happened then. For a moment, her expression changed, softer, almost human. Then the lights flickered again. The cameras sparked. Through the static, the scientists' voices shouted, "Cole! Step back. Do not let her touch you." But before he could move, she whispered something. A single word. "Ethan." He froze. Every muscle locked. She had said his name, his name. "How do you know my name?" he asked in disbelief. The alien didn't answer. She stepped closer, eyes fixed on him like she was searching his soul. The intercom screamed again. "She's reading his neural pattern. Get him out of there." But the doors stayed sealed. The control systems were offline. Ethan's vision blurred for a second, flashes of light, images not his own. He saw glimpses, cold metal tables, needles, screaming, and her face, chained, crying. He stumbled back. The memories weren't his. They were hers. Ethan gasped, holding his head. The alien girl crouched again, shaking as if she too felt pain. When he looked at her, everything felt different. She wasn't a monster. She was trapped, just like him. "Who did this to you?" he whispered. The lights went out again. A siren wailed from the outside hallway. Through the darkness, her glowing eyes were the only thing visible. The air felt heavy, electric, full of tension. Then came a faint, low growl, not of anger, but warning. She turned toward the door, her ears twitching. Footsteps echoed outside. Metal boots. Armed guards. Ethan backed up slowly. "They're coming." The alien girl looked at him one last time, then pressed her finger to her lips, a quiet gesture. "Stay silent," her eyes seemed to say. The door began to open. Blinding white light poured in. When the guards entered, they saw Ethan sitting alone, breathing hard, eyes wide, but the alien girl was nowhere to be seen. "Where is she?" one of them barked. Ethan didn't answer. He just stared at the dark corner of the room, where the shadows seemed to move. The guards checked their scanners. No life signs detected. But Ethan knew she was there, watching. And for the first time, he wasn't sure if he was the prisoner, or she was. The guards stormed out of the room in anger, leaving the door open for a few seconds before it sealed again. Ethan sat on the cold floor, trying to understand what had just happened. His pulse was still racing. The air smelled like metal and burnt wires from the flickering lights above. "She said my name," he whispered. His voice was shaky, barely a sound. He didn't even know if anyone was still listening through the speakers. For a moment, the silence returned. Then a calm but cold voice echoed from the intercom. "Subject 47, remain still. We are recalibrating the systems. Do not attempt to make contact again." Ethan looked up at the camera lens. "She's gone," he said. "You saw it, she was right here." But deep down, he knew she wasn't gone. She was hiding, watching, waiting. The shadows in the corners felt alive. Ethan's heart thumped. He stood slowly, eyes scanning the room. There was a faint hum in the air, something electronic, low and pulsing. The lights flickered again. And then, a whisper. "Ethan." He turned fast, weapon drawn, but saw no one. The voice wasn't from the speakers. It was inside his head. He backed up to the wall, gripping his weapon tighter. "Where are you?" he demanded quietly. A soft movement answered him, a shimmer of violet light behind one of the metal panels. It rippled like water, and from that glow, she appeared again. The alien girl. But this time, she didn't move like a wild creature. She moved slowly, almost carefully, like she didn't want to scare him. Her glowing eyes locked onto his. Ethan swallowed hard. You can speak?" She tilted her head again, the same curious look as before. "Ethan." The word came out broken, mechanical, but real. It sent chills down his spine. "How do you know my name?" he asked again. "Did they tell you? Or did you read it from me?" Her expression changed slightly. Her ears twitched as she stepped closer, one hand rising. He saw her fingertips. They weren't sharp anymore. The glow under her skin softened. Memory," she said slowly, struggling to form the sound. "Pain. You saw." Ethan's breath caught. She was talking about the vision, the flashes of her being chained and tortured. "That wasn't real, was it?" he whispered. She blinked once, slow, then nodded. Ethan felt a chill crawl up his neck. "They hurt you." The alien girl didn't answer. Instead, she looked at the camera in the corner. Her blue eyes dimmed to a darker shade, full of anger. Then she pointed toward it. Ethan understood. "She knows they're watching." He lowered his voice. "They can hear us." She stared at him again, her lips moving, not with words, but a soft vibration that made the room's air tremble. The camera's red light blinked, then went dark. Ethan's earpiece filled with static. "Control. You there?" No response. She had shut down their connection. Now it was just the two of them. Ethan stepped forward, slowly. You understand me. You can talk. You're not a monster. The alien girl tilted her head again, then made a sound almost like a laugh. It was soft, musical, and strange. She whispered something else, this time not in English. The sound wasn't like any human language. It was rhythmic, almost like music carried on wind. Ethan felt dizzy. His vision flickered again, and more images flashed through his mind. Tunnels filled with light. Scientists in white suits. Screams. A cage. And a hand, her hand, reaching out for help that never came. He stumbled, gripping the wall. She stepped forward, catching his arm before he fell. Her skin was warm, glowing faintly where she touched him. When their eyes met, everything went quiet. No alarms, no noise, just her breathing and his heartbeat. She's not attacking me, Ethan whispered. She's scared. The alien girl looked around the room, like she understood. She pointed at the door, then back at him. You want to leave? She nodded. Ethan knew that was impossible. No one ever left the containment room until the test was over. But before he could say anything, the intercom came back on, the voice of the head scientist, sharp and angry. Subject 47, step away from the specimen immediately. Ethan turned toward the ceiling camera. She's not hurting me. Cole, do as ordered. The creature is manipulating your brain patterns. We are detecting a link. Step back. Ethan looked at the alien girl again. Her eyes flashed with fear, not of him, but of them. He made his choice. No, he said firmly. There was silence on the speaker for a moment, then a harsh beep. Suddenly, the lights turned red. A mechanical voice spoke from the walls. Containment breach protocol activated. Gas began to hiss from vents in the ceiling. A pale green fog spread across the floor. Ethan coughed, covering his mouth. What are you doing? The alien girl moved fast. She grabbed his face gently, placing her lips close to his. Ethan froze, startled, but then realized she wasn't kissing him. She was breathing for him. Cool, clean air filled his lungs. Her breath carried oxygen. She was sharing it with him. The gas thickened around them, but she held him steady, eyes glowing fiercely. Through the haze, Ethan saw the door beginning to close automatically, locking them both inside forever. The alien girl pulled away just enough to whisper one word, broken but clear. Together. Then she lunged toward the control panel, her hands glowing bright blue. The lights exploded. Sparks rained from the ceiling. The gas vents burst open. When the smoke cleared, the door was half melted, and they were gone. Only the faint echo of her voice remained in the empty chamber. Ethan. The alarm sirens screamed across the entire facility. Red lights flashed along the metallic walls as smoke filled the corridors. Scientists ran from one control room to another, shouting orders. But inside the chaos, two figures moved quietly through the shadows, Ethan Cole and the alien girl. They had escaped the containment chamber. Ethan's lungs still burned from the gas, but the alien girl's touch kept him alive. Her skin glowed faintly, releasing soft pulses of blue light that seemed to heal him as they ran. Every step echoed on the metal floor. The walls vibrated with the sound of heavy boots somewhere behind them. Soldiers were coming. Ethan stopped at a corner, breathing hard. We can't go straight. They'll cut us off. We need another exit. The alien girl tilted her head, her glowing eyes scanning the area. Her ears twitched once, twice, then she pointed toward a narrow maintenance tunnel ahead. Ethan nodded. Good idea. Let's move. The tunnel was dark and cramped. Pipes hissed above them, dripping strange blue liquid. As they crawled inside, Ethan whispered, You can understand me, can't you? She didn't speak, but her eyes softened, and she nodded once. Ethan smiled a little, surprised. You're smarter than they think. He tried to ask her something else. What's your name? The alien girl stayed silent. After a few seconds, she touched her chest gently and whispered one soft word, hard to pronounce, full of strange tones. Lyra. Ethan repeated it slowly. Lyra. She blinked, eyes glowing brighter, as if hearing her name from him meant something important. Then, suddenly, the tunnel lights flickered again, and Ethan felt that strange dizziness from before. His vision blurred. His heart raced. Not again, he whispered. Flashes hit his mind, not memories, but pieces of Lyra's past. He saw her chained to a metal bed. Scientists in white coats standing around her, taking samples, injecting strange blue liquid into her veins. Her screams echoed in his head. He saw her face younger, afraid, reaching for help. Then he saw a screen, lines of DNA codes, and one word flashing, Project Hybrid 9, Human Base, Cole. Ethan gasped, pulling back. The world spun. No. That's impossible. Lyra looked at him with concern, her hand resting on his shoulder. Ethan, she said softly. He stared at her. They used me to make you? Lyra didn't answer, but her eyes told him the truth. Ethan sat in shock. The project, the experiment, it wasn't random. He wasn't just a soldier chosen for his bravery. They had used his DNA to create her. Half human, half something else. She wasn't just an alien girl. She was part of him. Why would they do that? He whispered. Lyra looked down, touching the metal wall beside them. For a moment, it shimmered with blue light. A map of the facility appeared in glowing lines. She was showing him. Ethan followed the light with his eyes. He saw the research rooms, the cells, and deep below, a massive chamber labeled Core Control, Hybrid Storage. He understood instantly. They made more like you. Lyra's expression darkened. Her ears went flat. She whispered a word. Sisters. Ethan clenched his fists. And they're still locked up, aren't they? She nodded slowly. Before Ethan could say more, a loud metallic thud echoed from behind them. Someone was opening the tunnel door. Go, Ethan said. They crawled faster through the narrow path until they reached a grate at the end. Ethan kicked it open and dropped into a lower maintenance bay. It was darker here. The walls were wet, and the air smelled like oil and smoke. Lyra landed beside him, silent as a shadow. Ethan looked around and saw broken equipment and old data drives scattered everywhere. This place hasn't been used in years, he muttered. Lyra walked over to a dusty console, touching it with her glowing fingers. Instantly, the screen came to life. Files appeared, pictures, video logs, genetic data. Ethan stepped closer. One of the files showed him his military ID, his blood tests, his service record. He scrolled further, and froze when he saw an image of Lyra, lying on an operating table, tubes connected to her spine. Her heartbeat on the monitor beside her read, identical to his own. Oh my God, Ethan whispered. They didn't just use my DNA. They linked us. Lyra watched him quietly, her eyes full of sadness. She reached up and placed her hand over his chest. For a moment, Ethan felt a faint pulse under her touch, not his own heartbeat, but hers, inside him. A soft hum filled the room. Her blue glow grew brighter, spreading around them like waves. Lyra, what are you doing? He asked. She didn't answer. Instead, she showed him another memory, not pain this time, but a message. A scientist speaking into a recorder. If the subject bonds with the hybrid, it may activate the core connection. The human may see the truth, and that will destroy the project. The memory faded. Ethan stared at her. That's why they locked us together. They wanted to see if we'd bond. Lyra blinked once. Bond, yes. Outside, footsteps echoed again. Soldiers were getting closer. Ethan grabbed her hand. We have to go. But before they could move, a metal shutter dropped down in front of them, sealing the exit. Another slammed shut behind them. They were trapped again. From hidden speakers above, The voice of the lead scientist came through, cold and full of anger. Test subject 47. You were never meant to survive this long. The creature has infected you with her link. You're a danger to humanity now. Ethan looked at Lyra. She was shaking, her eyes glowing bright and angry. He stepped in front of her, fists clenched. You're the danger, not her. The scientist ignored him. Containment gas, level 2. Release. A hiss filled the air. This time, it wasn't green gas, it was a bright blue mist that burned the skin. Lyra screamed in pain, collapsing to her knees. Her body flickered with unstable light. Ethan grabbed her, pulling her close, shielding her from the mist as best he could. Stay with me, Lyra. Please. She opened her eyes weakly, whispering, Help, sisters. Then her body went still, her glow fading. Ethan shouted for her, shaking her, but she didn't move. The door above them burst open. 2 guards dropped in, rifles aimed. But Ethan didn't see them anymore. All he could see was Lyra, her faint glow slowly dying, and something deep inside him beginning to change. He didn't know it yet, but the bond between them had fully awakened. And soon, everyone in that facility would feel it. The room was filled with the sharp hiss of the blue gas. The 2 guards stepped through the smoke, rifles ready. Their black armor reflected the flashing red lights as they aimed at the floor, at Ethan and the alien girl. Subject 47 is contaminated, one shouted. Eliminate both targets. Ethan didn't move. He was kneeling beside Lyra, his arms wrapped around her. Her glowing skin was dimming fast. The strange blue light that once pulsed beneath her veins now flickered weakly like a dying flame. Stay with me, Ethan whispered. Please. He looked up at the soldiers. Stop. You're killing her. But the guards didn't hesitate. Their orders were clear. Fire. The sound of plasma rifles exploded through the room. Blue bolts of energy tore through the smoke. Ethan ducked low, shielding Lyra with his body. Sparks flew from the metal walls. Then something strange happened. The air around them shimmered, as if reality itself had bent for a second. The plasma shots stopped in mid-air, frozen, before disintegrating into harmless light. The guards stepped back, confused. What they? Ethan looked down. Lyra's body was glowing again, brighter than before. Her eyes opened slowly, and when she breathed, a wave of blue energy pulsed out from her chest. The gas around them turned clear. She had saved them, again. Ethan stared in disbelief. Lyra, you're alive. She blinked slowly, whispering, Together. The soldiers opened fire again, but this time the bullets never reached them. Lyra lifted her hand, and a wave of blue light blasted outward, throwing the guards against the wall. Their weapons melted. For a moment, the whole room was silent. Then Lyra collapsed again, breathing heavily. Ethan caught her before she hit the floor. You're okay, he whispered, holding her tight. But she shook her head weakly. No, not safe. What do you mean? She pointed toward the door, toward the deeper parts of the facility. Through the smoke, Ethan could hear the heavy sound of metal doors unlocking. More soldiers. Drones. Machines. The real fight was coming. Ethan pulled Lyra to her feet. We have to move. Come on. They ran down the long corridor. Red lights flashed, alarms blared. The air was filled with the echo of boots and mechanical whirring. The walls here were lined with glass chambers. Inside them were other creatures. Failed experiments. Half human, half machine, some barely alive. Their bodies twitched as the alarms screamed. Lyra slowed down, staring at them. Her eyes filled with sadness. Sisters, she whispered again. Ethan looked through the glass. Some of the creatures were deformed, others too weak to move. They did this to all of you, he said softly. Lyra touched the glass. The blue light from her hand spread across it like water, and one of the hybrid creatures opened its eyes, bright and glowing, just like hers. The others began to stir too, their monitors flashing to life. Ethan grabbed her arm. "We can't save them all now. They'll kill you if we stay." But Lyra didn't move. She turned to him, eyes full of sorrow and determination. "Help them." Before Ethan could argue, she raised both hands toward the row of chambers. Blue light erupted from her body, a powerful wave that shattered the glass walls. The sound was deafening. Shards rained everywhere. The hybrid creatures stumbled out, weak but breathing. Their glowing eyes turned to Lyra, recognizing her instantly. Some hissed, some cried out, others just stared in confusion. Then the security drones arrived, floating black spheres armed with plasma turrets. They fired instantly, cutting through the fog with burning beams of light. Ethan ducked, pulling Lyra behind cover. "We need to get out now." Lyra nodded, her energy flickering again. She looked toward a sealed door at the end of the corridor, the exit. She stretched her hand, focusing her power. Sparks flew, and the metal began to melt like wax. Ethan grabbed a fallen rifle and fired back at the drones, covering her. The noise was deafening, plasma beams slicing through the air. One drone exploded. Another crashed into the wall. But there were too many. "Lyra, hurry." The door finally gave way, glowing hot from her energy. She turned to him, her face pale, her breathing fast. "Go." Ethan ran toward her, pulling her through the melting frame. They fell onto the floor of the next room as the door sealed behind them. The explosion from the other side shook the ground. For a moment, everything was quiet except their breathing. Ethan looked around. The new room was dark, lined with broken screens and old control panels. In the center was a large terminal glowing faintly. Lyra limped toward it, pressing her palm on the surface. The screen flickered to life, showing lines of alien code. "What is this place?" Ethan asked. She looked at him. "Core Control." Ethan frowned. "The heart of the facility?" Lyra nodded slowly. "Destroy, free all." He understood immediately. If they could destroy this control room, the locks on every cell, every hybrid, would open. But before they could act, the screen changed on its own. A face appeared, the lead scientist. His eyes were cold, his voice calm. "You've gone too far, Cole. The creature has rewritten your neural pattern. You're infected." Ethan shouted. "She's not a virus. She's alive." The scientist smiled faintly. "Alive? No. She's an accident. And you, soldier, are now a threat to human survival." Then the scientist pressed a command. The floor vibrated. From the walls, panels opened, and a massive machine began to rise. 8 mechanical arms unfolded, glowing red. Lyra gasped. "Hunter." Ethan raised his weapon. "You mean that's a—" Before he could finish, the machine's red eyes lit up. It moved with terrifying speed, smashing through the metal floor. Ethan fired. The bullets bounced harmlessly off. Lyra screamed something in her language, her body glowing again, brighter and hotter than before. Energy burst from her, forming a shield that blocked the machine's first strike. Ethan covered his face as the light filled the room. The machine roared, swinging again. Sparks and smoke filled the air. Lyra looked at Ethan, her voice breaking. "Run, please." He shook his head. "Not without you." She smiled weakly. "Together." The machine struck again. Ethan grabbed her hand and pulled her back as the control core exploded in a burst of blue and red light. The shockwave threw them both into the darkness. When Ethan opened his eyes, the machine was gone, the alarm silent, and the only sound left was the soft hum of Lyra's heartbeat, glowing faintly in his arms. But above them, deep in the ceiling, something new began to awaken, another system coming online. The fight was far from over. The air was thick with smoke. Sparks danced across the broken floor. Ethan pushed a heavy beam aside, coughing as he crawled out from the rubble. The explosion had destroyed half the control room. "Lyra!" he called out, his voice hoarse. For a terrifying second, There was no answer. Then, from behind a pile of debris, a faint blue glow appeared. Ethan's heart jumped. He ran toward it and found Lyra lying on the ground, breathing weakly, her skin cracked with thin lines of glowing blue light. He knelt beside her. "Hey, stay with me. You're okay. I've got you." Her eyes opened slowly. "Ethan," she whispered, her voice soft, almost fading. He smiled a little. "Yeah, I'm here." Lyra tried to sit up, wincing. "Core destroyed." Ethan looked around. The entire room was in ruins, flames, sparks, shattered metal. The control screens were dead. "Yeah," he said. "You did it. You shut them down." But before he could relax, a loud alarm began to ring again. Deeper, slower, like a warning heartbeat. Lyra's expression turned grim. "No, not over." She pointed toward a new section of the wall that had started to open. From the thick steam behind it, a dim red light glowed. Ethan aimed his weapon, ready for anything. What now? When the smoke cleared, his stomach turned. It wasn't soldiers this time. It was them. Dozens of hybrid creatures stepped out of the darkness, twisted, half-human, half-alien beings. Some crawled on all fours, others stood upright but moved awkwardly, like broken puppets. Their bodies glowed faintly blue, just like Lyra's, but their eyes burned red. Lyra's face went pale. "Sisters," she whispered in horror. Ethan lowered his gun slightly. "Those are your sisters?" She nodded, trembling. "They, not free. They are broken." Ethan understood. When she destroyed the core, she must have released every experiment in the facility, the successful and the failed ones. Now they were awake. The creatures surrounded them slowly, breathing heavily, making strange clicking sounds. Their faces showed confusion, pain, and anger. Ethan raised his voice carefully. "We're not here to hurt you." One of the hybrids hissed loudly and jumped forward, claws slashing. Ethan fired a warning shot that hit the floor near its feet, making it retreat. Lyra stepped in front of him, her hands glowing. She spoke in her strange, musical language, soft but commanding. The creatures froze. Some tilted their heads, listening to her. Ethan could feel the air changing. The hybrids were responding to her. She wasn't just one of them, she was their leader. "Lyra, what are you saying?" he asked quietly. She turned to him. "Telling them, not fight." Her glow spread brighter, casting blue light across the room. For a moment, the hybrids lowered their heads, as if obeying her. Then a sharp electronic crackle broke through the silence. A metallic voice echoed from hidden speakers. "Unit 47 has bonded with the human. Terminate both immediately." Ethan looked up. "They're still alive, the scientists." Lyra grabbed her head, crying out in pain. The red lights on the hybrids' bodies pulsed faster, their eyes glowing bright crimson. "They control sisters," she gasped. Ethan realized the truth. The scientists had a failsafe. The hybrids could be controlled remotely. And now, the command was clear. Kill Ethan and Lyra. "Lyra, we have to move." But it was too late. The first hybrid lunged forward, roaring. Ethan fired again, hitting its shoulder, but it didn't stop. More came from the shadows, their movements wild and unpredictable. Lyra screamed, raising her hands. A wave of blue energy burst from her, knocking several hybrids back, but it wasn't enough. There were too many. "Lyra, we need another way out," Ethan shouted. She looked around, her glowing eyes scanning the broken walls, and then she saw it. An old service elevator at the far end of the room. She pointed. "There." Ethan grabbed her hand, pulling her along as they ran through the chaos. The hybrids screamed and charged after them. Ethan fired over his shoulder while Lyra used her energy to create barriers of light that blocked the attacks. Each blast drained her more. They reached the elevator just as the swarm closed in. Ethan slammed the button, but nothing happened. The power was dead. "Come on. Work," he yelled, smashing the controls with his fist. Lyra stepped forward, placing her glowing hand on the panel. Sparks shot out as her energy surged through the system. The elevator roared to life, the doors sliding open. "Go!" Ethan shouted. They jumped inside, and the doors began to close, but one hybrid jammed its claw through the gap. Ethan fired point blank, blasting it away. The doors sealed shut, and the elevator began to rise with a loud rumble. Ethan leaned back, breathing hard. His hands were shaking. Lyra collapsed beside him, exhausted. Her light flickered weakly. Ethan turned to her. "Hey, you did great down there." She shook her head slowly. Not bad. They just lost." Ethan nodded. "We'll find a way to save them. I promise." The elevator shook as something slammed into it from below. The hybrids were climbing after them. Ethan reloaded his weapon quickly. "Of course they wouldn't make it easy," he muttered. Lyra opened her eyes again, her voice trembling. "Ethan, they come." The lights in the elevator flickered out completely. For a few seconds, everything was pitch dark except for the faint blue glow of Lyra's skin. Ethan could hear the sound of metal claws scraping the walls, getting closer. He whispered, "Hold on to me." She reached for his hand. Their fingers locked together. The glow between them grew stronger, brighter than before. Then, with a sudden jolt, the elevator stopped moving. The control panel sparked and went dead. Ethan looked up at the single remaining camera in the corner. It flickered once, and the scientist's voice returned. "You can't run, Cole. The bond between you and the hybrid is unstable. You'll destroy each other." Ethan stared straight into the lens. "Maybe. But I'd rather die with her than live under you." Lyra's glow pulsed brighter, filling the small space with blue light. She looked at Ethan with faint hope in her eyes. "Together," she whispered again. Then, without warning, the elevator cables snapped. The world dropped away beneath them. As they fell, the alarms screamed louder than ever, and somewhere deep in the base, something huge began to awaken. The elevator plummeted through the dark shaft, sparks flying as metal screamed. Ethan held Lyra tightly against his chest, both of them weightless as gravity pulled them down. "Hold on!" he shouted over the roaring noise. Lyra's eyes glowed brighter, her body trembling. "I can stop it," she whispered. Before Ethan could stop her, she lifted her hand toward the ceiling. Blue light burst from her palm, spreading through the falling elevator like a web. The motion slowed, just a little at first, then more. They hit the ground hard but alive. The crash shook the air, filling the shaft with dust and smoke. Ethan coughed, pulling himself up. He turned to Lyra. She was still, her glow dim. "Lyra! Hey, wake up!" He touched her shoulder. Her skin was cold. Her breathing was shallow. Faint blue cracks glowed along her neck and arms, as if her body was breaking from the inside. "No, no, no," Ethan whispered, panicking. "Don't do this." He tore open his pack and pulled out a stim injector, the last one he had. He pressed it against her arm and injected it. For a moment, nothing happened. Then Lyra gasped, arching her back. Her eyes flew open, glowing brighter than ever, a deep, vivid blue that filled the entire shaft with light. Ethan stepped back in shock. "Lyra!" She blinked rapidly, breathing fast. The cracks on her skin began to fade. He helped her sit up slowly. "You okay?" She nodded weakly. "Hurts, but alive." He gave her a half-smile. "Yeah, me too." They looked around. The elevator was broken, but the shaft had opened into a large underground chamber, dark, wide, and filled with strange humming machinery. The walls pulsed with faint red light, like veins. Lyra frowned. "This, not in map." Ethan aimed his flashlight around. "Guess we found the basement they didn't want anyone to see." They stepped out carefully. The air was thick and heavy, full of the scent of burnt metal and ozone. In the center of the room stood a massive glass tank, filled with a dark liquid that shimmered faintly. Cables ran from it into the walls. Ethan walked closer, brushing dust off the glass. What the hell is this? Then he froze. Inside the tank floated a shape, human-like, but much larger. Its skin was pale blue, its eyes closed. A long tail-like cord extended from the back of its neck into the liquid. Lyra stared at it in horror. "Mother," she whispered. Ethan turned sharply. "What did you say?" She took a trembling step forward. "She made us. All of us." The figure in the tank suddenly twitched, its eyes flickering open. The liquid began to bubble violently. Ethan jumped back, raising his weapon. "Oh, hell no." The tank cracked, once, twice, then exploded outward in a wave of steam and black fluid. The massive being stepped out, dripping with thick liquid. Its body was covered in blue patterns that pulsed with energy. It looked almost human, except for the eyes. Those eyes burned bright red. Lyra stumbled back, whispering, "She's awake." The creature looked at her, tilting its head. Its voice was soft but powerful, echoing in the metal chamber. "Daughter." Lyra froze. "Mother." Ethan glanced between them, his pulse racing. "Wait, that's your creator?" "She's alive." Lyra nodded slowly. "She was supposed to sleep forever." The creature, the mother, stepped forward. "You broke the seal," she said. "You destroyed the core." Her red eyes flicked toward Ethan. "And you bonded with him." Ethan tightened his grip on his gun. "I'm not her enemy." The mother tilted her head again, studying him. "You are human. You always destroy what you touch." Lyra shouted. "No. He saved me." The mother looked at her. "Then you are no longer pure." She raised her hand, energy gathered at her palm, swirling red and black. Ethan fired before she could release it. The bullet struck her shoulder, but instead of bleeding, the wound sealed instantly. The mother's expression didn't change. "Useless." She lifted her arm, and the air around Ethan warped. His gun flew out of his hand, clattering against the wall. He was thrown backward by an invisible force. "Ethan!" Lyra screamed, running toward him. The mother turned her gaze on her. "Come to me, child." Lyra shook her head violently. "No, I won't." The mother's expression turned cold. "Then die with him." She released the energy, a wave of red light rushing across the room. Lyra threw herself in front of Ethan, raising her hands. Blue energy met red, colliding in a blinding flash. The sound was like thunder. The shockwave knocked everything over, machines, metal, debris flying everywhere. Ethan tried to reach Lyra, but the energy storm between them was too strong. Blue and red light swirled together like fire and lightning. Through the chaos he shouted, "Lyra, stop! You'll burn yourself out." She turned her head slightly, eyes glowing fiercely. "I can stop her. Not alone." Lyra looked at him, her face full of pain and fear, but also trust. Then, "Help me." Ethan didn't understand what she meant until she reached out her hand toward him. He grabbed it, and in that instant, everything changed. A surge of blue light shot through his body, connecting them. His vision blurred. He saw flashes of her memories, the lab, the pain, the loneliness. And she saw his, the battlefield, the fear, the guilt. Their minds became one. The energy around them grew brighter, louder. The mother screamed, her voice shaking the walls. "Impossible! A human cannot." But before she could finish, the blue and red light collided again, this time exploding outward in a massive burst that shattered every machine in the room. When the light faded, the mother was gone. Only ashes and smoke remained. Ethan fell to his knees, gasping for breath. His veins glowed faintly blue for a few seconds before fading back to normal. Lyra was beside him, shaking but alive. He looked at her, barely able to speak. What was that?" Lyra smiled weakly. "Bond. Now, We are one. Ethan blinked. One. She nodded slowly, her glow soft. You saved me. I saved you. Now, we share life. He looked down at his hand. Faint blue lines ran across his skin, glowing just like hers. Before he could say another word, the chamber lights flickered, and a cold robotic voice echoed through the facility. Containment breach confirmed. Planetary protocol activated. Ethan's eyes widened. Planetary protocol? What the hell does that mean? Lyra looked up, her expression dark. It means, the world above will burn. A low rumble echoed through the underground chamber. Dust fell from the ceiling as red warning lights flickered to life. Planetary protocol, Phase 1 initiated, the robotic voice repeated, calm but terrifying. Ethan turned toward the ceiling speakers. What the hell is Phase 1? Lyra stood still, her glowing eyes wide. It means destruction. If Mother dies, the system destroys everything she touched. Ethan's stomach dropped. You mean this whole base? She shook her head slowly. No. The entire planet. The floor trembled again, deep and steady, like the heartbeat of something huge. Far above them, they could hear explosions echoing through the tunnels. Ethan ran toward a damaged terminal and began pressing buttons. There's got to be a way to shut it down. Lyra knelt beside him, her hands glowing as she tried to connect with the system. Sparks flew from the screen. Lines of alien code flashed and vanished. It's locked, she said quietly. Mother's death triggered the final defense. Ethan looked at her, determination burning in his eyes. Then we find the control core and stop it ourselves. Lyra hesitated. Control core is not here. It's above, surface level. He cursed under his breath. Then that's where we're going. They turned toward the elevator shaft, but the path was blocked by collapsed steel beams. The explosion from before had sealed it completely. Great, Ethan muttered. We'll have to climb. He started searching for another exit, shining his flashlight through the smoke. Finally, he spotted a narrow maintenance tunnel on the far wall. This way, he said. Lyra followed, limping slightly. The blue light under her skin flickered weakly, fading in and out. Are you okay? Ethan asked, noticing. She nodded, though her face said otherwise. Energy low. The bond keeps me alive, but it drains you too. Ethan glanced at his own arm. Faint blue lines still pulsed beneath his skin. Then we share it. That's what you said, right? Lyra looked at him softly. Together. They crawled through the narrow tunnel. It was hot and full of steam. The deeper they went, the louder the alarms grew. Finally, they reached a vertical shaft with a metal ladder leading upward into the dark. Ethan went first, climbing fast. Lyra followed behind, her hands glowing faintly to light the way. Halfway up, the ground below them exploded. Flames shot through the tunnel. Go faster! Ethan shouted. The blast wave chased them upward. Lyra's strength faltered. She slipped, falling a few feet before Ethan caught her wrist. I've got you, he yelled, pulling her back up. Her voice trembled. You should leave me. I'll slow you down. Not a chance, he said firmly. We started this together. We finish it together. They climbed until they reached a broken metal grate at the top. Ethan kicked it open and pulled himself through. They emerged into a large, dimly lit hangar filled with crashed drones and destroyed ships. The floor was covered in debris, and the air was thick with smoke and fire. Lyra looked around, her expression sad. This was Escape Bay. Humans built it to leave the planet if Mother failed. Ethan looked at the half-burned logo on one of the ships, Project Genesis. He frowned. Genesis? That means beginning, not ending. Lyra tilted her head. Maybe both. Before they could move, the loudspeakers crackled again. A new voice echoed through the hangar, cold and familiar. You've done well, Cole. But it's too late. Ethan froze. That voice. Dr. Hovel. The lead scientist's face appeared on a nearby holoscreen, flickering with static. His eyes were hollow, his skin pale. You think destroying Mother freed you, he said calmly. She was only part of the system. The real core is beneath the surface, and now it's waking up. Lyra stepped forward. Why? Why destroy everything? Hovel smiled faintly. Because humanity cannot control what we create. We end it before it ends us. Ethan clenched his fists. You're insane. Maybe, Hovel replied. But I'll survive. You won't. The screen went black. Instantly, the floor began to shake again. A giant crack split open across the hangar. Molten light glowed from below as metal groaned. Lyra stumbled, grabbing Ethan's arm. He started the core melt. We have minutes. Ethan looked around, desperate. There has to be another ship that still works. They ran across the hangar, jumping over fallen beams and shattered glass. Most ships were completely destroyed, except one. In the far corner stood a smaller vessel, still intact, its engines flickering with faint power. There! Ethan shouted. They reached the ship as pieces of the ceiling began to fall. Ethan hit the access panel, but the door didn't open. No power, he muttered. Lyra stepped forward, pressing her glowing hand to the hull. The blue light flowed into the circuits, and the ship came to life with a low hum. The door hissed open. Ethan helped her inside, then jumped into the pilot's seat. He scanned the console. Half the systems were offline, but the engines were functional. Can you fly this? Lyra asked softly. Ethan smirked. I can try. He powered the ship on. The engines roared weakly. Outside, the hangar began to collapse. Hold on, he yelled as the ship lifted off the ground. They shot upward through the crumbling ceiling, flames and debris chasing them. As they broke through the surface, Ethan's breath caught. The entire landscape was burning. Firestorms and collapsing towers stretched as far as the eye could see. Lyra whispered, It's too late. Ethan gritted his teeth. No. We can still stop it. He pointed toward the horizon, where a massive structure rose from the ground, a spire of black metal, glowing red at the top. Lyra's eyes widened. That's the control core. Ethan nodded. Then that's where we're going. The ship streaked toward it, cutting through the smoke-filled sky. Below them, the ground split open like a wound. Rivers of molten light poured upward, and in the distance, a giant mechanical shape began to emerge from beneath the earth, something colossal and alive. Lyra gasped. It's not just a core. It's her final form. Ethan tightened his grip on the controls. Then we finish this. One last time. The ship sped toward the rising machine, its red eyes burning brighter with every second. The final battle was coming, and neither of them planned to run. The ship cut through the burning sky like a silver arrow. Below them, the world was dying. The ground split apart, cities melted, and towers fell into rivers of molten light. Ethan gripped the controls tightly, sweat dripping down his face. The ship rattled under the pressure. We're not going to make it if that thing keeps growing. Lyra stood behind him, one hand on the hull to keep the ship stable with her energy. That thing is the core, she said. It feeds on everything. Once complete, it will burn the entire planet. Ethan's jaw tightened. Then we hit it before it finishes. Ahead of them, the massive machine, the core, rose from the ground like a black mountain made of living metal. Its red eyes glowed like suns, and huge tentacle-like arms stretched across the horizon, pulling power from the earth itself. Lightning cracked across the sky. Ash fell like snow. Ethan guided the ship lower. If we get close enough, can you shut it down? Lyra shook her head. Not from outside. I must connect directly to the core's heart. He frowned. That'll kill you. Her glowing eyes met his. If I don't, it kills everyone. The silence between them said everything. Ethan looked away, clenching his jaw. "Then we do it together," he said finally. Lyra placed her hand on his arm. Her touch was warm, calm. "No. If we bond again at that level, you die too." Ethan gave a half-smile. "Then I guess that's how it ends." She stared at him, and for the first time since he met her, a tear rolled down her cheek. Outside, the core roared. The sound was like thunder mixed with screaming metal. Waves of red energy burst from its body, tearing through the sky. The ship shook violently. Warning alarms blared. "Ethan!" Lyra shouted. "It's locking onto us." "I see it." He dove the ship hard to the right, dodging a beam of molten plasma that sliced through the air, narrowly missing them. The shockwave sent the ship spinning. Ethan fought the controls, trying to stabilize. "Hold on." They crashed onto a platform halfway up the core's massive structure. Metal screamed as the ship skidded to a stop. Flames burst from the engines. Ethan coughed, unbuckling himself. "That's it. We're on foot now." Lyra nodded, already glowing brighter. "The heart is near the top." They climbed out of the wrecked ship. Around them, the core pulsed and shifted like a living thing. The surface of the metal moved under their feet, almost breathing. As they ran toward the central spire, mechanical drones swarmed out of the walls, sleek, red-eyed creatures armed with plasma blades. Ethan fired at them, picking them off one by one. Lyra raised her hands, releasing waves of blue energy that shattered the machines. Each blast weakened her, but she didn't stop. The path led them into a huge circular chamber filled with glowing cables and pulsing red veins. In the center floated a sphere of light, the core's heart. Lyra's voice trembled. "That's it." Ethan looked at her. "You sure about this?" She nodded slowly. "Yes." She stepped forward, placing both hands on the sphere. Blue energy flowed from her palms, mixing with the red light. The core reacted instantly, screaming with mechanical rage. The walls cracked. The entire chamber shook. Ethan ran to her side, trying to steady her. "Lyra, it's fighting back." Her voice was faint. "I can stop it, just need more power." Without thinking, Ethan grabbed her hands. A massive surge of light exploded between them, blue and red colliding, merging. Their bond reignited, stronger than before. Ethan screamed in pain as the energy tore through him, but he held on. Lyra's glow intensified until her body looked almost transparent. She looked at him with a soft, sad smile. "You shouldn't have." "Yeah," he said, voice shaking. "But I did." The core screamed again, its voice echoing across the world. Cracks spread across its surface. The red light began to fade, replaced by bright blue. Lyra's body trembled violently. Her voice was a whisper. "Ethan, when it ends, run." He shook his head. "I'm not leaving you." She smiled faintly. "You already did once. Not again." The chamber exploded in a flood of light. Ethan could feel her slipping away through the bond, her energy pouring into the core, cleansing it, purging the corruption. He tried to hold on, but she was fading too fast. "Lyra!" he shouted. Her final words echoed in his mind, not through sound, but through feeling. "Thank you, for showing me what it means to be alive." Then everything went white. When Ethan opened his eyes, there was silence. The core was gone, nothing left but dust and blue mist. The world outside was still. The fires were dying, the sky clearing. He stood weakly, looking around. "Lyra!" No answer. He fell to his knees. The bond inside him was silent now, but he could still feel her faintly, like a memory in his heartbeat. He looked up at the new sky. It was blue again, real blue, not fire or smoke. From the horizon, sunlight broke through the clouds for the first time in what felt like forever. Ethan whispered, "You did it." A small, glowing feather of light drifted down before him, soft, blue, and warm. He caught it gently in his hand. It pulsed once, like a heartbeat. He smiled. Guess we both made it. He stood, the wind blowing through his torn uniform, and started walking toward the rising sun, a lone survivor of two worlds, carrying the light of both within him. As the camera pulled back, the ruined planet slowly began to heal, trees sprouting through ash, rivers turning clear again, and blue light glowing faintly beneath the soil. The voice of Lyra echoed softly one last time. Together, forever.